I don't think anyone can deny that 2020 was a very difficult year for us all. It changed life as we knew it, making life harder for some and destroying lives for others. At the core of it all, God puts us in our own unique trials and tribulations. Trials and tribulations can be difficult and bring people kneeling before the Lord asking for help. The Bible tells us that as Christians, God will use all things to glorify Him. With God, our trials and tribulations can refine us and can be turned around and seen as blessings.
Before COVID, I was hanging out with friends all the time, and I just was crazy busy with school and didn't have time for myself. I wasn't pouring anything into myself, and my life was just really lacking self-care. And so when COVID hit, I looked at it as a stop. I saw it as I can't hang out with my friends, I can't really do anything, and so it just put my life on a pause.
My trial is facing discrimination because of my visa status, my ethnic background, and my missionary background. But that made me resilient to a point for me to strive for what God has put in my heart and my identity in Christ.
A really big tribulation that happened to me in my life was nerve pain. In 5th grade, I was diagnosed with glossopharyngeal neuralgia. It's affectionately known as the suicide disease, again, amongst most people who have it. I was in the most blindingly intense pain I have ever experienced in my life and will ever experience again. My parents tried everything. I was on anti-seizure medication. I was so drugged out in the hospital that I couldn't walk, and nothing alleviated the pain, nothing helped at all.
A trial in my life has been my dad. A couple years ago, he got really sick, and we had to postpone everything in my life. College I was supposed to go to, the plans we had, all got canceled.
So trials are a really interesting thing. I think they're something that I've never wanted to endure, but every time I go through a trial, I look back and have been honestly pretty encouraged that I went through it, and I'm thankful for a lot of the things I learned from it. One trial that comes to mind is the diagnosis of cancer that my wife recently went through a couple years back.
The trial in my life that was the most impactful, I think, was the loss of my dad. About 4 years ago, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and from the time he told my family and I that he was sick until the time he passed away was just 6 weeks.
Growing up, I lived in this bubble of blissful ignorance. It was a beautiful place where I was allowed to be myself completely with no care in the world, but that's not reality. And in 7th grade, that bubble popped. I remember one day walking into the classroom. There were probably 20 kids in my class. Some of the girls were glaring at me. I didn't know why. I wrote it off as maybe they just weren't enjoying their day, and I was a blank wall for them to look at. And then I come in the next week, and there's cold shoulders. And I write it off. I think, okay, maybe it's something else. Maybe I did something. I don't know. One day, at lunchtime, my class was gathered in this circle. They were all talking together and laughing, and they were shoulder to shoulder, the perfect picture of community.
So one of the issues and something that I've dealt with in the past is the death of one of my mentors, Joseph Walker. And one of the positives that I've really been able to see from that death is just being able to really rely on Christ and being able to lean on Him. And when there's something going on, there's two ways that we can really go about it. We can either go through the motions and have our emotions be up and down, or we can use that circumstance to be able to rely on Christ and be able to lean on Him and be able to worship Him rather than complain. So being able to rely on Christ was something I was able to do in a difficult circumstance that was going on in my life.
Eventually, that resilience gifted me a spot in the Amazon program at Venture Capital Scout. Out of 1,200 applicants, a little bit over 50 people were selected from all over the country, and I was one of them. And through my resilience that God has given me, and through my skills that God has grown in me and developed within me, I was able to get inside the program.
A couple weeks in, I realized, oh, I can actually make a change to my life. And so I started working out, I started cooking healthy and eating really healthy, and I also was working a lot on my relationship with God. because before COVID, I gave all these excuses of I am so busy, I don't have time for God. So now having all of that extra time took away all my excuses. So I had no choice but to really get serious with God and work on my relationship with Him. And so, COVID was a huge trial for me, and I overcame it, and I think I am stronger because of it.
Through a long process and through many miracles, my family found a chiropractor. And I'd been to chiropractors before, but this one was different. This one worked on the C1, your atlas bone. It's the top bone in your neck that holds up your head. He twisted it just a little bit with less than a pound of pressure. Turns out that that bone was rotated and pinching my glossopharyngeal nerve, which caused me so much pain. Looking back, I'm really glad that I went through this, because after my pain was fixed, my testimony, my story of how I came through this pain led so many other people in my community to go to this chiropractor and get their problems fixed.
And here I was, little 7th grade Alyssa, bouncing up and down, trying to get a word in edgewise, trying to be heard above the noise and to be seen. There was nothing but backs turned to me. And that was the day that I realized, oh, okay, maybe they don't want me here. I would be lying if I said that it was not a very lonely and very hard time. However, because of my experience in 7th grade, I not only now know what it feels like to be on the outside looking in and can empathize and sympathize with people who have been bullied and have been given the cold shoulder and ignored, but I also drew closer to God.
In those moments, when we got the diagnosis, there's so many questions that come to mind. You have no idea what is going on. You don't know what's next, what's around the corner. It's all brand new. So I was really just thankful as a Christian to be able to rely on God and know His sovereignty. And I think honestly, just knowing theology based around how sovereign is God, and is He actually in control of what's going on around us in my own life or anyone else's lives. Just knowing that and trusting that was, I think, what brought both of us through all of it.
And although that was a really hard time for my family and for me, it turned out to be this wonderful opportunity, because although we unfortunately lost my dad, it transformed my life into coming here. And I got to meet the people here that I did. I gained new friends. I had a wonderful job opportunity. The major that I was supposed to be going into was totally different, so now I'm on a new track, and I've had all these opportunities just open up for me, which has been really cool. And although the loss of my dad has really affected my family and I, we've learned so much about loss and just dealing with grief and just learning to appreciate people more in life, because you never know when you're going to lose someone.
So it happened very fast, and I didn't have a lot of time to prepare myself. And I think that led to a lot of questions why. And I think when difficulty like that happen, you ask yourself why, or you ask God why. And I would ask God, why did I only get 17 years with this amazing person? Why did I only get 17 years? At a point, there came a time when I realized, why am I asking or complaining about 16 or 17 wonderful years? Why am I questioning, or why am I not being thankful for the time I did have? A lot of people don't have even 16 years with an amazing person like that in their life, and I think God just refines us through our pain and through our trials, and it really just taught me that to be thankful for the people in your life that make an impact, and to tell them often. Ultimately, we live for the glory of God, but ultimately, in all things we do, we honor Him, and He is not to blame for our trials. And I just think, knowing that, I live each day thankful for that day, and I live each day thankful for the people in my lives. And that is something that changed after that happened. And I'm appreciative of the time and the people in my life. And I believe that God used that experience to humble me and to make me realize what's most important on this world and during our time and on this physical earth, because it doesn't last and it is not the most important thing. So I just thank God every day for what He's blessed me with.
It was just so comforting to know that God was in charge of every moment of our lives, and just seeing the ways that He encouraged us through it all. And we are just, grateful as Christians. And what's also awesome is I feel like it really allowed us to become better friends, and just really honestly grew our marriage, so we know each other even more now after going through all those trials. So we're thankful, and that's my story.
Before that time, God was this high in the sky. I go to church, I worship Him, I know about Him, I know all these fun facts, but he wasn't personally my friend. But because I didn't really have anyone to talk to, I started talking to Him, and God drew close. And He taught me that He was there for me, and He loved me, and He wanted to hear what I had to say. And He wanted to be there with me and hold my hand as I walked through the valley of the shadow of death. And it was beautiful. I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that I would not be the person that I am today if it wasn't for 7th grade. I would never want to go back, and I would never wish it upon anyone. However, I am who I am today because of it. Thank you, Jesus, for redeeming everything.